Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Thursday, May the 6th. Ian Cameron with you. We'll have Jimmy Murphy along with us momentarily as well. We're ready to break down the Thursday card. What a fun show. What a crazy show yesterday was. If you didn't check out the Ice Guys show, either live on YouTube or you didn't download the podcast yesterday after the fact, check it out. I mean, it was crazy because we had the New York Rangers and their really stunning front office shakeup pretty much take place as the show was going on. So Jimmy and I definitely instant reaction to what was a highly unexpected decision by the ownership of the New York Rangers, putting it mildly. And that's exactly what happened yesterday with the dismissal of John Davidson, the GM or the president of hockey ops, and Jeff Gorton, the general manager. Both getting fired here yesterday by the New York Rangers. It was definitely a stunning development, not something I think was warranted based on the job that the two men did in trying to rebuild this team and put them in a position to be successful long term. So definitely some issues. The New York Rangers with the ownership of James Dolan, with the GM and the president of hockey operations, he was looking for any reason to get rid of them. The rumblings are he wasn't happy with the season they've had. He kind of wanted to make a change, and they didn't stand up and support Dolan and stand by him when he insisted on the Rangers posting that statement about George Parros and getting rid of him as the head of player safety. And that was the final straw. It was just it's just crazy to fire people for that reason. What? Because they don't stand by you for making a statement that has never been done before. Protocol has never, ever been broken before. And calling out someone as unfit in the NHL head offices at any department, at any level, and say they should be fired. It's never been done before because it's just not supposed to happen. You're supposed to keep those kind of thoughts to yourself and behind closed doors in discussion and not come out and say it publicly. But nevertheless, it was a stunning development, and it was a crazy day for the Rangers. Obviously, we'll recap last night's action first before we get into tonight's Thursday card. We'll start with the Capitals and the Rangers. Absolutely. Give the Rangers credit, okay? They don't have goons. They don't have muscle. They don't have enforcers littered up and down their lineup by any stretch of the imagination. You know, they have Brendan Smith, maybe Kevin Rooney, you could say he's got a little bit of backbone and ability to stand up and play a physical game as well. But this is still a New York Rangers team. They don't have a lot of guys that are, enforcers on this team. And it was a collective team effort by them. They had the line brawl off the opening faceoff. Brendan Smith, credit to him. He has fought several times before. He's the one current Ranger on the roster that has dropped the gloves at least more than a handful of times. And he went right after Tom Wilson on Tom Wilson's very first shift of the game and took him on. And look, it's not easy to fight Tom Wilson. He's a big guy. He knows how to chuck the knucks. And for Brendan Smith to do that, I give him full marks, total credit. I like that the Rangers did it that way. That they actually, they didn't get the decision they wanted from George Parros regarding Wilson. But they said, you know what, we're going to show a little team unity. We're going to stick up for ourselves as a hockey team. And as, we got each other's backs. You have to show that kind of mindset. And the Rangers did that. So credit to them. Very physical game. It sort of wore out later in the game, especially when Tom Wilson left the game. And of course, there was another incident later in the game. Anthony Mantha was pestering Pavel Buchnevich all over the ice. And Buchnevich finally had enough and cross-checked Mantha right in the face. Obviously not the response you want. If you want to punch him or, knock him down, that's one thing. But a cross-check with the stick right to the face, that's just not the way you want to respond in that kind of situation. And it's probably going to get Pavel Buchnevich in some hot water. And isn't the irony of the Rangers fan and the Rangers team, as if they're not already pissed off enough with George Parros not suspending Tom Wilson, now they're probably going to have to watch him dole out a suspension to Pavel Buchnevich for cross-checking Anthony Mantha in the face with a stick. So they're really going to be absolutely livid, if more than that. And yes, there's a great point that someone's making in the chat about George Parros. And we need to stop talking about enforcers like they're morons or they got no shit for brains and they can't think and they're not educated and all this stuff. That's not the case. You look at Stu Grimson on NHL Network. I don't know how many of you guys watch the NHL Network in the States, but Stu Grimson does a terrific job. He speaks as well as anybody. He's educated. He's smart. He's intelligent. A lot of these enforcers and tough guys are. Look at John Scott. Does that guy look like he's a moron, numbskull, just because he was an enforcer and fought a lot in his NHL days when John Scott made that little social media Twitter statement regarding the whole incident involving Tom Wilson? No. These are smart guys. I hate people say they're cement heads. They're not cement heads, all right? You can't just paint everybody that was a tough guy in the National Hockey League, paint them all the same brush with the same stroke. You can't do it, all right? A lot of these guys, they are educated. They are intelligent. They speak very well. They had a good education. So, to me, that's idiotic take, an idiotic mindset to think that. No question about that. And look at one of our guests, Devin Didiometti, who's been on this show a couple of times. He fought a lot in the Ontario Hockey League, in the AHL, the ECHL. He played in Europe after that, and he fought there a bunch of times. This was actually a guy, if you look up his YouTube, if you type his name in YouTube, you actually see him. He tried to go after someone, Devin Didiometti did once in the penalty box of a game. Actually tried to get after them and fight them in the penalty box. But when you see him on this show, does he sound like an idiot? Like he's not intelligent? No. So again, we have to dispel this notion that the tough guys have cement for brains. It's not the case. A lot of them are very well educated. They speak well. And George Peros is one of those guys. Like he's not, he's very, very well spoken. But nevertheless, I'm sure the Rangers, he was already not in their good books. And now they're probably going to have to watch him suspend Buchnevich, which is the right call. They can be pissed all they want, but it's the right call. Buchnevich gets suspended for that cross-check with the stick to Mantha. It's got to be done. But nevertheless, crazy game last night. Capitals end up winning. And the New York Rangers, we'll get to their game against the Bruins tonight in just a second. But you got to wonder just what kind of flat, just dead spot this could be for the New York Rangers tonight as they take on the Boston Bruins. Some other games last night that took place. How about those Ottawa Senators? Another win over Montreal that just continued to give that team fits. Winnipeg Jets, I've got to absolutely give them credit. And we like the Jets. We saw 7 losses in a row. Sometimes you're scared to back teams in that situation. But we said, hey, they're an underdog and they're better than Calgary. Enough said. We like the Jets. They got it done. Big bounce back game, their best game in weeks. Connor Hellebuck was razor sharp, his best game in weeks. Scheifele and Wheeler played like the players and the top forwards that we think they are, and we know they are, last night in the win. So the Jets shut out Calgary 4-0 in that one. What else did we see last night? We saw let me just see here. Yeah, we saw a couple of interesting results last night, but we'll get into the more and more as we go. Jimmy Murphy, I want to bring him in now. He has joined us here on the Thursday edition of the show. Jimmy, before we get to today's card, anything that stuck out to you last night? And of course, what do you think of what went down at MSG?
Well, I mean, it was pretty much what we expected, right? I mean, I didn't seriously think there would be that much right out of the gate there. I didn't think there would be that many fights. I expected more of what we saw Buchnevich do. I'm surprised there weren't more people hurt or more cheap shots delivered. And I'm happy. I'm happy that didn't happen. I'm happy that they decided to be men and drop the gloves and square off one-on-one. So I give both teams credit in that sense. I'm just wondering, I'm reading social media last night, and I'm seeing just the completely divided reaction to the fights and do we want this in the game? And then you got other people saying this is a shit show. This is a circus. This is embarrassing. And I'm kind of, 5 years ago, I'd probably be on the side like, game on, let's go. Slap shot, old time hockey, Eddie Shore, and loving these fights. And I do. And I think it was necessary for the Rangers to answer the bell. I'm not knocking them for that. I'm just going to go back and, sorry to beat a dead horse, but just knock the league, knock Peros, and knock the Department of Player Safety, because it didn't need to be like that last night. You could have had a suspension. You still would have had some payback, but it wouldn't have been the shit show that it was. And I'm just wondering, the more and more we look at this, and I think I said this already on here, but the more and more I think about it, I think that the NHL has decided, and whether this is part of maybe the brainstorming they had with their new TV broadcast partners, ESPN and TNT, and the direction they want to go with the game and how they portray the game to the general public and how they plan to try and lure in more fans and more eyeballs and more ratings. Is this what they want? Have they decided that, you know what, we're going to go back to the 70s and the early 80s and these brawls and these line brawls and just chaos on the ice and, you know, jam-packed penalty boxes, because we think this is what's going to sell right now. And clearly it did sell, because I haven't seen the exact rankings of the ratings or the exact ratings, but I'm guessing it was one of, if not the highest rated games of the season on NBC. But I don't know if that's the direction they should go in. I think maybe they should just be worried about the fans they have and embrace the game that they have right now, because they got a pretty goddamn good game. They have a great game. And I think taking this 180 and going back to the past that way could come back to haunt them when somebody's laying on the ice with their head split open in a puddle of blood and not moving. And, you know, we'll see how your ratings are then.
Yeah, when everyone's horrified and it's just, you know, you're talking about someone.
And you're the joke of sports, you know?
Yeah, they'll exactly. And they will be, you know, ridiculed and just lambasted for, you know, just putting a player's health and maybe even life in peril. That is an excellent, and I'm torn. I'm legitimately torn in two when it comes to this issue. I love seeing the scrums. I love seeing the line brawls. I love seeing several fights simultaneously, like we saw at the opening faceoff. But you also don't like to see that it led. You know, we had a serious, potentially very, very critical injury situation lead to all of this happening. Is that what it's going to take now to get a line brawl in a game? You know, that kind of significant, vicious incident involving Tom Wilson. Like, I would be more in tune with, give me more line brawls. Give me more of what we saw last night. If you can have those just in the heat of the battle, rather than a vicious incident leading to all of these fights, all of these line brawls. You know what I mean? I'm like, it spontaneously. Just, you know, we don't like your team. You don't like us. We're competitive bastards, both of us as teams in the NHL. We want to win. So let's set a tone. Let's get in a line brawl. Have it happen that way, organically, rather than, hey, someone almost had their head split open by Tom Wilson who went way too far. And that's what leads to the line brawls and the massive amount of fights. You know what I mean? I would be more in tune with seeing more of this if it's a spontaneous action organically between two teams that just don't generally like each other, as opposed to, hey, this was a significant incident. Someone almost getting their head cracked open, someone getting cross-checked into the boards, an open ice hit, elbow to the head, leading to all of this. I don't want those incidents leading to this. I want it to happen spontaneously if there's going to be line brawls and fights like crazy in all these games. That's where I stand on this.
I'm right with you. And you know what? I said the exact same thing in messaging one of my friends last night during the game. I told her, I said, I don't know. I mean, it's just fun. It's funny, but it's like, it's all staged. It's just, I don't know. I'm right with you. I love those spontaneous fights. I mean, I think one of the best fights I ever saw was Jerome McGinley and Vincent Lecavalier in the 2004 Stanley Cup Final. You know, I don't know what game it was in the series, but they just went at it spontaneously. And you've seen other ones like that too. I'm all for passion, and sometimes it boils over. But stuff that results from a horseshit player like a Tom Wilson, and the fact that he's out there participating in it all, you know, it's interesting. But the one thing I will say, whether you like Tom Wilson or not, and it's clear I don't like the way he conducts himself, but I have never said he's not a good player. He is a good player. And you know, when you see all these players standing up for him right now, or former players saying, you know, there's not a team in the league that wouldn't take him on their roster, they're absolutely right. But there's not a team on the league that wouldn't sit him down and say, stop acting like a petulant child and putting us in a jam where we have to pick up the mess that you made, and we get penalized for it. If you want to be a good teammate, that's fine. Be the rugged guy. Be the power forward you can be, because you know what? He could be the best power forward of this generation if he wanted to. He's that good, and he's that dynamic and that big. But he's chosen to take this clown show route, and it's sad, you know. But the thing is, like I said, no matter what you think of him, Tom Wilson is changing the game. Tom Wilson is making, since 2018, since the Capitals won the Cup, and they did it physically. What did the St. Louis Blues do the following year? They won it with grit, they won it with size, and they won it by bullying you into submission. What did the Tampa Bay Lightning do last year when they won the Cup? The same exact thing. Look at that third line they had. They were the best line they had. They were the guys that were the main factor. They won because they had size, and they would just pile you over as they skated down through the neutral zone into your zone. Teams are changing that way because of guys like Tom Wilson. And we just saw, within a 48-hour span, a team reconstruct its whole path because of Tom Wilson, and that's the New York Rangers. So, you know, while I hate him and I didn't like the clown show, you can't argue that he's having an effect on the game in many ways right now, whether that's the league realizing they can make money out of it, or other teams realizing they have to adjust to beat the Capitals and Tom Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Tom Wilson derailed a franchise this week, kind of. Really?
He did.
I mean, the GM and the friggin' player.
The fact that the owner's a bonehead, but
that too. He derailed it just as much. But hey, the incident of Tom Wilson the other night led to what ended up eventually happening with JD and Jeff Gorton. Can you imagine Dolan doing that to JD in particular? This is a guy that bleeds New York Rangers hockey. You know, he was a great goaltender for the New York Rangers decades ago. This is something I forgot to mention on the show yesterday. I wanted to say it today. He was a goaltender, and a good one, for the New York Rangers back in the day. He worked how many years? 10 plus at least, alongside Sam Rosen in the New York Rangers television booth on MSG for a very long time. And you're going to unceremoniously dismiss him like that because of something like this? Wow. Yeah. Just stunning. But that's James Dolan, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing he does is shocking. Nothing to me that he does is a lot of things he does I don't agree with. I think it's a bad way to go. I think it's a jerk thing to do. He's done a lot of jerk things in the past, and you know, this is another one right here with John Davidson for everything he's done for the New York Rangers, and this is the way you part ways with the guy. Pathetic, if you ask me, Jimmy.
And in the end, I mean, let's not forget what Jeff Gorton's done. I mean, look. Jeff Gorton, like we said, I think I said it yesterday, right? I mean, 3 years ago, I've never seen a GM do what he did. I've never seen a team do what the Rangers did when they wrote a letter to their fans and said, look, the next few years, maybe next 3 to 5 years, we're going to suck. It is what it is, but we got to rebuild. We got to start over, and this is where we're going. And within 3 years, he built a team that snuck into the bubble, but that might have been his biggest downfall. I think them making the bubble last year raised expectations way higher than they should have been for this franchise right now, took them to a level that they really weren't on in terms of that rebuild, and disillusioned the ownership and some of the fan base and some of the media that this team was a Stanley Cup contender. And you know what? I was one of those. I was one of those people who thought they were going to get into playoffs again this year and contend. I was scared of this team down the stretch for the last few weeks, as a lot of other people were. And I'll admit it. I got ahead of myself. I didn't step back and look at the big picture like, wait a minute, they're not quite there yet. And this reminds me a lot, and this is all I'll have to say, this is the last I'll say on it, but this reminds me a lot, and it's a lesson to be learned for all owners out there. Let your GMs do their jobs. You do yours. This reminds me a lot of the Flyers when they fired Hextall. Look at the way he rebuilt that franchise, and yet they kind of went a little ahead of schedule, and then when they dropped back to where they really should have been, they fire Hextall, and then look what happens to Carter Hart, who Hextall did not want in the NHL as early as the next GM put him there. And I see that happening. Well, maybe not, because you know what? Drury was a big part of the rebuild and where the Rangers got to so fast. So I don't think he's going to all of a sudden rush some guys into the NHL. But still, it was a knee-jerk reaction based on money, as it always is. And I think in the end, they might regret it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think I think he was looking for a reason to make a change, and part of it was, as everyone's reported, the disappointing season, because he thought for
Yeah.
sure slam dunk
But
playoff
to
team.
say that the state, them disagreeing with the statement, like them not putting their names on it, or them being upset that they weren't even kept abreast of what's going on here and not consulted about it. Look, nobody's saying that an owner needs his workers or his employees' permission to do anything, but it's good business to keep everybody on the same page, because frankly, they're the ones that are going to face the media more than the owner. So they need to be prepared to know the types of questions that they have coming at them. And when you blindside them like that, as you put it yesterday, Ian, it's just bad business. And that's all this guy's ever been about. Look at the New York Knicks. I mean, it's bad business.
Ask Charles Oakley about James Dolan. Yeah.
Yeah. James Dolan can go, whatever. I'm done with him. But all I'm saying is, look, it's a lesson for all of us, just as fans, as media, to kind of, when teams are rebuilding, keep that in mind. Never lose sight of the big picture, and that's what I think happened here with the Rangers.
Yeah, don't speed up the process. If you're a car that's in let's equate any team that's in rebuilding in the NHL to a car. Drive along and go the speed limit. Don't all of a sudden pump the gas pedal and try to go 90 kilometers an hour when your car is only capable of going 60 right now. Look at the Ottawa Senators. That's what they're doing. Nice and slow, doing it the right way.
And you just
building piece by piece.
Watch out there, Ian. We all know what Melnick's capable of, so that could easily get screwed up very shortly.
Yeah, no question. But the Rangers, they're in the same process, and they had a little taste of success last year, and then all of a sudden, whoa, we're a playoff team and we're cup contenders. No, doesn't work that way. Sometimes you just got to let it happen. Don't rush things. And I think there was a little bit of that with the New York Rangers. Before we get to the games, we'll get off that topic with the Rangers, but some media news, some big ones. Turner making waves. Eddie Olczyk and Kenny Albert named their lead broadcast team next season for the Turner TNT half of the NHL rights. Not surprising. I mean, Eddie Olczyk, and Kenny are not sticking at NBC when there's no hockey there. And Turner ends up scooping them up. In terms of other broadcasters for Turner, they're still looking in those directions. I read something the other day. It's not a for sure, but they want one guy maybe that's already working with Turner the last few years in sports to maybe be part of them. And the guy they're considering is Harlan, Kevin Harlan. Now, if he were to do hockey, and I don't think he's done a lot of hockey, if any, but man, he could be a Tirico of Turner, where it doesn't matter that he's never done hockey before. He's that good. He could be absolutely spectacular doing hockey. So if Kevin Harlan, who already does March Madness, which is part of Turner with CBS, and of course NBA on TNT, if he gets the chance to do hockey, Kevin Harlan, who is one of the absolute great broadcasters in North American sports right now, I'd be all for that. Kevin Harlan would be great. So we'll see where Turner goes. And the other big news on the ESPN side is they've narrowed down some play-by-play guys. No yes or no yet on Thorne, but Steve Levy's in the mix. Clearly he'll be one of them. Buccigross and Sean McDonough actually could be involved as well.
Awesome guy.
In the NHL. And he should. He's actually done hockey. He did.
Oh, he's a great hockey guy.
In the Nagano Olympics, I remember, in 1998. And he was with CBS at the time. He did the hockey play-by-play for CBS at that Olympics, and he did it pretty well.
College hockey for Nesson here in Boston way back too. He would always do the bean pot.
Yeah, so, which would be good. I think Sean's great. I love when he cracks the voice when he gets excited. Everybody loves that. That's great. I think that's phenomenal. People laugh, ha ha ha. He's having his voice crack all the time when he gets excited. That's just raw emotion and passion. I love it. Give me more of that from our broadcasters. So McDonough, and the big news of all from the media side yesterday, Ray Ferraro. How about this? He might be the lead analyst for ESPN and leave TSN. And look, it's a no-brainer. It's like TSN's not even a national rights holder for hockey in Canada.
Yeah.
He's only doing regional games in the Leaf viewing region or in the Senators viewing region. Only the small part of the province sees those games. You're going to go to ESPN. You're going to get paid a shit ton more money to be the lead analyst coast to coast, do Stanley Cup finals for ESPN. It's an absolute no-brainer for Ray Ferraro. He's got to take the job. He's got to take the deal. You're not, you're just, I don't know what you're thinking if you say no. So I'd expect that to end up happening. that Ray Ferraro is the lead analyst. It's a great choice, by the way. He does a
Yeah.
great job. It's an absolute slam dunk for ESPN if that indeed comes to fruition. And congrats to Ray if it does happen.
I'd say a few other things though, just back on last night too, Ian. That one thing I did, I think that the shit show pissed me off even more because there were some really magical stories last night. There were some really great things that happened across the league. Whether it was right in that game with TJ Oshie getting a hat trick right after his dad died, and by the way, shame on me. I don't know if anyone else did, but shame on me to not factor that in. And I wanted to bring this up to you, Ian. And I don't know if there's a way we could ever keep track of such a stat, but I feel like in hockey that we've had a lot of games, whether it's been an individual performance like TJ Oshie last night or a team performance rallying around an individual who needed them. A lot of times where, and I don't mean to sound all sappy and everything, but the heart and emotion, and just being a team and being together has made a team one, has literally spurred a team on to a win. It was like, man, they knew they wanted to win that game. When you saw the reaction they gave him when he got that hattie, and when in the pass, I forget who passed it to him there, made sure he got it. It was almost like a planned play, if you ask me. He knew he was shooting it right from there. There was no hesitation. You see that reaction, and I'm thinking they looked in that locker room and they said, look, we got all this madness going on around Tom Wilson right now, all this expectation for fights. Yeah, we're going to have to get involved in that. But we need to win this game. No matter what, we need to win this game for TJ Oshie. And damn, I wish I thought about that before, because if I did, I would have been all over the Caps. I couldn't really figure out remember, we both couldn't figure out a side on that game just because of all the madness around it. But if we had maybe identified that, and I feel like that's happened a lot this year, Ian, where teams have rallied around a teammate in situations like that. We saw it last week with Ryan Miller, right?
Yep. Situational betting is what it is.
We see it last night with David Backes, the same team. Another great story there. What happened, the ovation he got and the stuff they did for him. And
they didn't win, but almost, and they played their guts out.
Yeah, but I mean, it was unreal, like what they did for him. I'm just trying to say, like, keep an eye on this stuff. Sometimes we underestimate that. We're all caught up in numbers and stats and analytics and what have you and records. Sometimes we just got to think about the human spirit and what that means to a hockey team, because I think in hockey we see that more than any other sport. And I think with everything that's been going on this year with COVID and everything, we're seeing it a lot more in the game.
Yeah, situational betting involving a specific player on a team where the team is going to rally around it, bring a great effort, and rise up, and maybe that player in particular is going to play good. The Ryan Miller situation with Anaheim in his final home start last night, with a death in the family for a beloved teammate, losing a parent like TJ Oshie did. And all of a sudden he's inspired to play hard, as a dedication to his dad, and the team wants to, help him out, and he wants to play well. So yeah, that team, bet on that team, maybe look at player props for that player to maybe go off. And we saw that happen with TJ Oshie. Something to keep in mind. Situational little angles like that can pop up during the course of the long season. And the odds makers does not factor that in one lick, one iota into the line and into the price.
And speaking of emotional situational angles, I think I heard you say earlier, we've got one of those tonight.
Sure do. And we will get to that now with the beginning of the breakdown of the Thursday card. Let's get to it. Thursday slate, starting with the New Jersey Devils and the New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders minus 220, home favorites here, total 5.5, shaded to the under. I don't have a strong thought on this game either way. I'm probably passing this game overall. When I look at it, the New York Islanders they're third or fourth. They're going to be third or fourth with the Bruins. Bruins are either going to be third in the division, or the Islanders are going to be third in the division. And neither of those teams is going to get home ice in the first round. So I just don't know if there's that urgency for the Islanders in these remaining few games of the season. Not enough to want to lay minus 220. I'll tell you that right now. And New Jersey's one of those teams that this time of year, the non-playoff teams with these final few games, you've got to put them into categories. Teams that have given up, teams that are waving the white flag, that there's not a lot of pushback. There's a lot of, when things start to go wrong, they go off a cliff and they get worse. And which teams are fighting back? still battling, still competing, still showing you that want to give you an effort, to win games. Columbus is trying to win games. Buffalo's been a tough out. We've seen even Detroit rise up, play pretty competitively. And I think you got to throw New Jersey in that category as well. They've been competitive. They have not been an easy team to beat lately for any team that they face. So I think when you look at this game overall, I think it's a situation here where you could definitely make a case for New Jersey potentially as a dog. I'm going to lean to New Jersey, but I'm going to stay off this game altogether. Keep in mind the Devils, again, a team that has not completely rolled over and packed it in. So, and the Islanders, not sure the urgency's there, and I need it if I'm going to be endorsing a minus 220 favorite. So I lean New Jersey, but it's going to be a pass for me. Jimmy, what do you think, Devils and Islanders?
Well, I'm okay. Making sure I was unmuted. You know what? You're right. One thing I'll say, and I think the Bruins can still catch the Penguins. I don't think that little part is over, right? Because don't the Bruins have a game in hand on the Penguins?
I believe so, yes. I think there is a game
so
in
they
hand.
Could still catch them for home advantage. Not that I think I honestly think home advantage does not matter, except for maybe getting the last change and all that. But I mean, crowd-wise, clearly it's not going to matter, and I don't think it matters much right now this year out of all years. But they have a chance. But, as far as this game goes right now, you do make a great point there. I mean, the Islanders just kind of know where they're going to be. I think it's pretty obvious where they're going to be right now, and they're more focused on fine-tuning a bit. And fine-tuning doesn't mean throwing your game plan out the door and not trying to win, but it just means you're more focused on that. And if you end up losing by a goal or two, so be it, as long as you don't get blown out of the building and some big red flags go off there. So I look at this game right now as probably the most boring game on the card for sure. And that's why I'm really loving that it gave us that little extra half. So I'm all over the under 5.5 in this game because I think this is going to be a snooze fest on the ice and for anyone who watches it.
All right, like in the under 5.5 here, Devils and Islanders for Jimmy. Yes, it's the Bruins up by 1 on the Islanders, and the Bruins have a game in hand on the Islanders. So that's where we stand right now. So again, third or fourth, it's not going to make or break it for either of these teams. I think who finishes third and who finishes fourth. You're playing a pretty tough first round opponent either way, whether it's Washington, whether it's Pittsburgh in that first round. So that's why I say we'll see if and plus you always have to worry, especially if there's not a boatload on the line for the Islanders, resting players, load management. It is creeping into the NHL here down the stretch with some of these teams. So something you want to keep an eye on for sure in this one. All right, next game, New York Rangers, Boston Bruins. Boston minus 235, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this game. We know what the Rangers have been through. And look, I thought they would be motivated to win last night, and they still didn't win the game. Washington still pretty much controlled that game start to finish. And now you expect, after everything that's gone on, physically, mentally, emotionally, with the Rangers in the last 2 games against Washington, think about this last 48 to 72 hour cycle. The Tom Wilson incident, the fallout from that, the decision by George Peros not to suspend him, the absolutely physical, fight-filled game last night. And I think they did try to win the game. There was effort, there was energy, there was passion from the Rangers, but yet they still weren't good enough to get it done. Involved in that, multiple fracases and fights in that game. And now you got to go to Boston on the second night of a back-to-back against a rested Bruins team after everything you've gone through physically, mentally, and emotionally the last 3 days. Wow, this is one of the ultimate brutal spots that you'll ever see. Not just the schedule, it's everything that's gone into these last 2 games between the Rangers and the Capitals. And it's a shorthanded hockey team. Kreider may not be back tonight. I think Troup is still going to be out. Lindgren's still out. Artemi Panarin is done for the season. And we're all of a sudden seeing Zibanejad and really hardly anybody else scoring lately for the New York Rangers. So this is just a tall order. It's a difficult to ask.
Do we know if Buchnevich is playing?
And Buchnevich, exactly, with the suspension.
Comes down before the game. He might not play either.
Yeah, his hearing, I think, is going on today. So
right as we speak. I know that right now. It's going on right as we speak.
There you go. And that's a top 6 forward for the New York Rangers. So that could be another thing they've got to overcome. And Boston Bruins, look, I know they're kind of like the Islanders where these games aren't life or death, but I think they still want to go into the playoffs playing well, playing in good form, finish the season strong. Of course, they're going to have Jeremy Swayman in net. We don't know yet for the Rangers who's going to be in net, but you would think Shesterkin, considering the fact that Georgiev played last night. It bothers me that I feel this way, and everybody and his brother that handicaps and bets NHL hockey that I've talked to about this game over the last 12 hours feels this way. But to me, this is Boston in regulation at minus 140 or 45. This is Boston puck line minus 1.5, minus 110. You could even go Boston first period in this game at minus a half goal plus 115. I think you could go with all three and go 3-0. In this game. I really don't know if the Rangers show up. I think they stay on the bus. They park the bus, so to speak, going into this game. After everything they've gone through, no playoffs. Keep in mind, before the two Washington games, we talked about the Rangers being a fade and a bet against the rest of the season. I stayed out of betting against them last night out of respect for the energy and the intensity that I thought they would show against Washington. And yet they were still not even good enough to beat the Capitals or even come close to beating them last night. And now they're on a back-to-back. I don't think they give two shits about this game, to be honest, after everything that's gone on. They're not making the playoffs. They got tons of key players out. This is Boston first period, plus 115, minus a half goal. This is Boston in regulation, minus 140, minus 145. And this is Boston puck line, minus 1.5 here for me. I'm on all three. For better or worse, I'm on all three here. It's just too much of a ripe spot for the picking to ignore. Jimmy, what do you think? Let's hear it. Bruins and Rangers.
I'll tell you this. I just got a text from, and I'm, obviously I can't say who the agent is and what player he represents on the New York Rangers, but he's watching us right now. And he just said, you guys are all right. Let me tell you, the Rangers didn't get in until 2:30 in the morning last night. All right. And they tied one on the plane. That's all I'm going to say. So that's an agent of a New York Rangers player right now. Wow. Totally agreeing with everything we're saying right now. Of course, because I'm telling you this now, the Rangers are going to come out and win 5-0. But no, I mean, this is one of those, like we were saying, there's some games, and there seems to be a lot more of them because of COVID, obviously, and the compacted schedule, COVID protocol list and all that. There seems to be way more this year, and we've been lucky. And this is another one right now where, you just got to, look at all the factors coming in right now, and everything points to the Bruins. I always loved Chris Berman when, you remember when he used to do the NFL show. It was an NFL primetime, and everybody would pick, say, the Giants, and he'd look at them out. You're all on the Giants, huh?
He'd pick the other team, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do that tonight.
Not right now. And there were times when he knew no matter what, you had to go with him, and he'd be like, well, so am I. And so am I on the New York Rangers. I already did my bets last night. As that game was going on, I got the Bruins in regulation at minus 130. Last I checked, that went up to minus 170 right now. I got the Bruins puck line at plus 105. That's changed already. And I also got the Bruins first period regulation line, the three-way, at plus 125. So that's where I'm at in this. I might even look at an under on the team total as well for the Rangers. Jeremy Swayman has been lights out for the Bruins. I mean, has he had a bad game yet? Even in the games he loses. Look at the 1-0 game against
He hasn't let in a bad goal in them. I know that.
He has not let in a bad goal yet. The kid is lights out. I still think that by round 2, he's the starting goalie for the Boston Bruins in the playoffs. I'm just going out on a limb predicting that, but just a gut feeling I have. Just everything just points to one of those stinkers for the Rangers and a win for the Bruins. And like we were saying at the get-go, these games do mean something for the Bruins. And the coach continued to say, I'm not resting guys right now. I want my lineup out there that's going to start the playoffs so they can build chemistry, because that's been one of the biggest problems, not just for the Bruins, but for every NHL team this year, has been building chemistry within your line and your D pairings. And they have that now. They've found that. Yeah, Charlie Coyle is out, by the way, for the Bruins, upper body injury. And he was starting to come into form there in the third line. The third line was clicking. But, as I said to you and the guys in our private chat, and I'll say it here publicly, I got a gut feeling Jake DeBrusk steps up tonight. There was something about him. It seemed like he's kind of reached his boiling point with the way his season has gone. When he spoke to us earlier today, he was upset. He was pissed. He didn't really want to answer questions. He finally opened up a bit to me, and I got a feeling on him. So if you want to even do a side prop for a little fun there, bet on Jake DeBrusk to score a goal.
That's good. I mean, we've seen him. We've seen this from DeBrusk specifically earlier this year when he was, sounded like he was angry about a slump he was in, and I think right after that he scored. That was one of the games he actually did. So that's a good thing to go with here. Jake DeBrusk to score a goal or over points, something like that. And yeah, seems like too good to be true. And sometimes it is when it just seems like it's obvious like this, but. The Bruins sitting in an excellent spot, you would think, tonight against a Rangers team. I don't think they have anything left to give tonight, the New York Rangers. Anything, physically, mentally, emotionally, and everything else in between for this hockey game tonight.
And I'll say this.
Hell of a week they've had.
God forbid we're all wrong here, but, if the Bruins do lose this, be wary of them. Because, if they lose this game, then to me, that's a huge red flag if I'm Bruce Cassidy. Something's going on there. So, but hopefully we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, hello to the player agent, by the way, watching us right now. Thanks for tuning in. We thank everybody for tuning in. The more, the better. We've got the Buffalo Sabres and Pittsburgh Penguins, minus 310. Pittsburgh, massive favorites here, total 6 in this one. I'm on the Sabres here at a plus 1.5. I don't know if I've got the guts to go money line here against Pittsburgh, but I think it's worth a look here. Buffalo plus 1.5, plus 120. Ride the wave with Michael Hauser, and he's right back in net tonight for the Sabres. They've rallied around him. They've rallied around this story. They're scoring goals. I mean, their offense has come to life. Their offense against a great Islander defense, you got to give the Sabres credit. That wasn't some civ defense that they just played. That's the Islanders. And they found ways to score goals. Rasmus Asplund has been good. This Ruotsalainen's given them life. Sam Reinhart's been excellent. Middlestat continues to be good. I mean, these youngsters for the Buffalo Sabres, they're not rolling over here, and they've caught lightning in a bottle with not young Michael Hauser, but Michael Hauser in this great story where he's been in the minors for years, and now he's finally getting a look in the NHL, and the team is rallying around that at the moment. I know Pittsburgh's still battling for first in the division. There's absolutely no reason that Pittsburgh should look past Buffalo with what's at stake for them. But my opinion right here is Buffalo has already shown you they could beat Pittsburgh and play them tough. Multiple times this season. Like I say, I don't have it in me to go the full throttle here on Buffalo at plus 275 to win the game, but I'm happy with plus 1.5 at around plus 125. Still a good plus price to keep it to a 1-goal game. And I like the over here because Buffalo's scoring. I think they go out, find some goals for Hauser. And on the flip side, third game now for Hauser, including third game in 4 nights. I think he could still play well. But look, Penguins have a little bit more punch offensively, especially with Malkin back, than the New York Islanders do. So I could see Pittsburgh getting on the scoreboard as well. So for me, 2 bets: Buffalo plus a goal and a half, plus 125, and also Buffalo Pittsburgh over 6. What do you think here, Jimmy? Sabres and Penguins.
You know what? Like, Ian, when I was looking at this game and kind of evaluating it and looking at the ins and outs of it, I kind of had the same sense. I think they could outright win, but I'm with you. I'm going to play it safe and go with the plus 1.5 at a plus price, which we don't see too often. They're going to give Pittsburgh some fits tonight. And again, I'm going to go back to it. I'm sure Melissa Cunningham's going to agree with me. One of the most underreported stories right now when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins is how much they're missing Mike Matheson. He transformed that defense. He really did. And they were getting so much speed through the neutral zone when he was on the ice, and the forwards were benefiting off it. Keep that in mind going forward as long as he's out, that element is missing in their game. I like the Sabres, plus 1.5.
All right, Buffalo plus 1.5 goals on the puck line. This is Jimmy puck line, but the other side of the puck line. Not laying the half goal, we're taking the half goal, or the 1.5 goals, I should say. Taking the 1.5 goals with the Buffalo Sabres. It's because you don't usually get to take plus 125 on a team at plus 1.5 goals. But you get that here with Buffalo because they're just such a massive underdog in this game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And by the way, they have to keep going with Michael Hauser. They've got no choice. They've got 4 goalies on injured reserve right now. Can you believe this? Hutton, Ullmark, Tokarski, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is also on the injured list now because he got hurt against the Bruins on Saturday. So to have 4 goalies injured at
Yeah.
the same time, that's unreal. I don't know.
And by the way, 28 isn't old. Okay.
No, that's true. Jari's been good. I agree. Jari's been good. But I think Buffalo's offensively, they're generating. I'm watching every game lately with Buffalo. They're generating. They're getting their chances. You just hope they cash in on them a little bit here tonight against the Penguins. All right, let's continue on. We've got just 3 games left here. Chicago, Carolina. Carolina minus 295, home favorites, total 6. Very simple for Carolina. Win tonight, they clinch the division. Might as well finish it off right here, right now, and get it done tonight. If you're the Hurricanes, they've tattooed Chicago now in back-to-back games. They even spotted Chicago a 2-0 lead the other night and still came all the way back and took care of business in that game against the Blackhawks. We've talked about it. Blackhawks, no Calvin DeHaan, no chance on defense. I mean, the defense has just fallen apart and crumbled. The goaltending has slipped as well, regardless of Lankinen, regardless of Subban, regardless of Delia being in net for Chicago. They have not kept the puck out of their own net. I think I've gone Carolina team total over, full game over. Both of these head-to-head games this week, Chicago, Carolina. I'm going right back to it here. Same thing. Over team total, Carolina, over 3.5 goals. And also over 6 for the game. Team total for Carolina is indeed, yes, over 3.5 minus 145, the exact same price it's been the last 2 games. So, and Chicago, Carolina, they've been trending over the total head-to-head this season as well. So, same 2 bets. They cashed 2 and both of them. Team total Carolina, full game over in the first 2 meetings this week between the Blackhawks and Hurricanes. I'm going right back to it tonight. Carolina team total over 3.5 and the full game over 6. Jimmy, what do you think here? Chicago, Carolina.
Well, yeah, I think Carolina comes in. You're right. They want to get it done, and they'll clinch that spot today. And remember, too, kind of nobody thinks about it, I think, because of the realigned divisions and everything, and not really having conferences right now. And you don't think of the league standings so much. They got a good grasp on the President's Trophy right now as well. And while we're not thinking that really makes a difference when you're playing out of your division, it will later when they switch to the conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals, and they want to get home advantage. And on that note, as I was saying earlier, I don't put much into home advantage now, but I will later on if things continue to go well in the United States and vaccinations increase and more people are allowed into the arena, and you can maybe get 50% by the time the Stanley Cup final starts, then I think home advantage plays a big role. I think the Carolina Hurricanes are thinking about that as well. Obviously, they want to get fans in there. So give me the Carolina Hurricanes, Jimmy puck line on this one. I'm also going to take them on the puck line in the first period.
All right, so a double up puck line spot. Yeah, I would lean in those directions as well. First period puck line, because maybe an onus on a better start after falling behind 2-0 in the last game, and also the full game puck line for Jimmy here. Montreal and Toronto. We've got the Leafs. They've taken all kinds of money here. They're all the way up now in this game to the minus 220 range. Even minus 230 in some spots here in this game. Total right now in the 5.5, 6 range, depending on where you look. Yeah, we're looking at minus 225, 5.5, the total shaded to the over. Maybe we get this game over the total. When's the last time we've seen Toronto 5.5? Like now we're seeing Toronto lined to the way they're playing defense lately. I could see this being an over. I will bet the over. From a side perspective, Toronto in regulation is the only way I could go. They have been not just good, they have been absolutely unbelievable, unbeatable when avenging a team for losing to that team in the most recent game. And of course, they lost to Montreal in the Cole Caulfield game-winning goal in overtime earlier this week. Toronto's just been lights out, Jimmy, in revenge for a loss to the team that the last time they played them. I think to the point where like they're 14-1, Jimmy, or 13-2 in that spot where they are trying to beat a team that beat them the last time they faced them. And that's the spot here for Toronto. So definitely from a side perspective, it's Toronto in regulation. That's probably what I'm going to go with. Toronto in regulation around minus 145, just to be a little bit safer in case it's a 1-goal game, and also over 5.5 with the Habs and the Leafs, especially with Montreal starting to generate a little bit more offense. And the Leafs, they're still good to score goals any night, and you don't get 5.5 every day with them when it comes to the total. And look, Sheldon Keefe might have new guys in the lineup, and we could see guys rested again tonight, changes in the lineup. And usually when there's new faces in the lineup, different lines, different D pairs, that means defense suffers. Guys, communication breakdowns sometimes. You could see that tonight. So that could lead to some more goals as well. So Leafs in regulation, as well as over 5.5 for me. Montreal, Toronto. Jimmy, what's your take here?
My take is, I'm not betting the Habs, so that's out of the way. I'm going to jump on that over. I think that's way too low for this game right now. And, especially with the fact that, they're going to try and tell you they're not, but the Leafs are trying to get Austin Matthews those goals and those points. They want him to break these records. They want him to go down in history right now. And that's why I'm also going to take him again to score a goal tonight in this game. And, just a little bit on Montreal there. You would think maybe I'm a little worried about betting against them because of how bad they were against Ottawa. So maybe they come out fired up. I was a little tempted to take them in the first period, but I'm going to keep my promise and not do anything Montreal side related.
That's a promise we intend to make sure Jimmy keeps. He's not betting Montreal again this season, and he's going to.
I love the city. Don't get me wrong.
Just not doing it. And yeah, Toronto again losing to Montreal the other night. I could see a little burr in their saddle to win tonight. Again, Toronto's pretty much home and cool first. They're going to win the division, just a matter of when they clinch. But definitely, I think they'll want to. They've been just amazing in the avenging role, beating a team that the last time they played them, that team beat the Leafs. They've been just terrific at avenging those spots. So we'll see if they keep that up tonight. Vancouver and Edmonton, final game on this Thursday slate. Edmonton minus 245 to minus 250. Home favorites, total 6. I've been on Edmonton puck line here, both of the last two games in Vancouver between these two teams. Edmonton gets it done 5-3 and 4-1 victories. Connor McDavid goes over his total points props in both games. You got to go right back to it. Over 1.5 points is like minus 130. Get back right on that Connor McDavid total points prop tonight. They want to get 100 points for him. He's got 7 points to get in the remaining 5 games to get to 100 points. He wants that number. He wants that achievement. The Oiler teammates of his want him to get it. They're going to try to put him in a position to get as many points as possible. And Vancouver's been very giving in that regard the last few games from a defensive standpoint. So McDavid to score, I wouldn't argue with that. I like McDavid over 1.5 total points. I posted it on Twitter at Bobano last night. That cashed. The 2.5 points over fell short, but barely. And you can get plus 300 with that. I wouldn't be scared to go maybe for that as well, that he could get 3 points tonight, Connor McDavid, in this game against Vancouver. They're not stopping anybody right now. And the Oilers, I know there's not technically a lot at stake. They're probably going to finish second. They're not going to catch Toronto. They're pretty much locked into their position. So does a malaise set in? Does a lethargic type of effort set in? I think this incentive and this mindset to get McDavid to 100 points is enough to keep them going and focused and want to put up goals in bunches, especially McDavid. So it would be Edmonton first period puck line, Edmonton minus 1.5 around even money, full game puck line, Edmonton team total over. I love that. Edmonton team total over. Absolutely. That's probably my favorite of them all in this game is that team total on the Oilers, which I also cashed in the last game against Vancouver, both games against Vancouver, the last two. They got over 3.5 goals. Their team total in this one is also 3.5, over 3.5 Edmonton team total. Minus 135. I like that quite a bit. And I'm also going to be on a bunch of Connor McDavid props tonight. Like I say, I think they want to get 100 points, and so does he for him going into the end of the season. Jimmy, what do you think, Vancouver and Edmonton?
I think everything you said is 100% dead on right now. Ian, with the Vancouver Canucks, it is what it is. This season can't end soon enough for them. And look, I'm not, by no means am I criticizing them. They've just had a big shit sandwich handed to them this season, and it is what it is. On that note, give me the Edmonton Oilers. Another puck line here for me. Edmonton Oilers minus 1.5.
All right, Edmonton Oilers even money puck line minus 1.5 for Jimmy Murphy in this one. I definitely wouldn't disagree with that. I think definitely we see a situation here where the Oilers win by margin. They won by margin. Put it this way: Edmonton is 5-2 against Vancouver this year. 4 of the 5 Edmonton wins, Jimmy, were by 2 goals or more. So 4 of those 5 wins for Edmonton against Vancouver would have cashed the puck line. minus 1.5 goals. So I say stick with it. I really like the team total. That's the one I'm probably going to have the most money on. Edmonton team total over 3.5, minus 135, and then also get the props involved with Connor McDavid as well. All right, that is the Thursday NHL card. Great analysis, great show once again. We're on fire this week. Some great shows, great debate. That's the thing about late regular season hockey. A lot of situations arise. It provides good discussion points on the show. We'll get to best bets in just a second. Thanks as always to everyone for tuning in. A reminder, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN, NHL, NBA, and Major League Baseball on a daily basis. A great time of year to try DraftKings out. When you download DraftKings, the app, and sign up for an account, you get a deposit bonus, weekly specials, and incentives. So check all of that out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN. All right, it is best bet time for this Thursday edition of the Ice Guys. Jimmy pushed for me with the best bet last night, so we stay at 9-3, 75% with my last 12 best bets on the show. We'll see if we can extend that record tonight. Jimmy, we'll start with you first. Best bet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to need to make a little comeback here down the stretch here before the playoffs start. Look, we got to go right to the game here in Boston. Give me the Boston Bruins in regulation.
All right, Boston in regulation here, minus 170 in this one against the New York Rangers for Jimmy Murphy's best bet. Did you want to go regulation or puck line?
You know
regulation?
What? As I said that, and as you were talking there, let's go Jimmy puck line.
There you go. I was going to say your Jimmy puck line. The reg line's minus 170 now because I actually bet the regulation when it was minus 145, and now it's up to minus 170.
Yeah.
So it's got.
I got it at minus 130. Yeah, but it looks like a lot of people in our chat room bet this very early, even before the game started last night.
Yeah, exactly. So I can see why that is. Boston puck line, even money, minus 1.5 for Jimmy Murphy here against the New York Rangers. That will be his best bet. Mine is going to be, look, I'm going to go right back to the game we just talked about. Edmonton Oilers team total, over 3.5, minus 135. I'm starting to use some team totals as best bet. 2 nights ago, I was on Carolina team total over as a best bet. And I like that one again tonight. But I'm going to go Edmonton team total over 3.5, minus 135 tonight for best bet. They get to 4 goals. They scored 5 against Vancouver 2 games ago. They scored 4 against Vancouver in the last game. That's all they need in this bet cashes. The drive is there. The incentive is there. Get McDizzle. Get Connor McDavid to 100 points in the regular season. Edmonton Oilers team total over 3.5, minus 135 against a downtrodden, beaten down Vancouver Canucks team. That'll be my best bet for this Thursday card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week on YouTube, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeart. Find the podcast there. For Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.